As the official healthcare provider of Minnesota United, Allina Health is focused on keeping our Loons in top condition. And with expertise in orthopedics, sports medicine, heart care, and more, Allina has the team to keep your family in the game too. The experts at Allina Health take the time to get to know you as a whole person, helping you achieve wellness for your mind, body, and spirit. It's an altogether better kind of healthcare. Learn more at allinahealth.org.
Welcome back, everybody, to another very special edition of Sound of the Loons, presented by Allina Health. And we are once again joined by Khaled El-Ahmad. Thank you again for joining us. Another special, we get you before or beginning of the transfer window, we get after the transfer window. And we're very fortunate because they do the whole shebang. We get to come up to Allianz Field, we get the cameras, we get the whole fancy setup every time you decide to join us.
Yeah, but it's less cameras this time than last time.
Are you disappointed?
No, but maybe someone's trying to tell me they weren't as happy with the transfer window.
Right, or that, or like we have a face for radio. I've been told that before, so that could be less cameras on us. Well, thank you for taking the time, and it's nice to be back up at Allianz because it feels like it's been a while since we've had a game up here, so we haven't graced the halls of this beautiful stadium. But how's the last month been for you? We can get to the transfer window, but in general, what's it been like up at NSC? I know the guys are working hard. They didn't make it to the next round of Leagues Cup, so they've had some time to train and maybe get some games in some way, shape, or form to keep the guys fit. How's the last month been for you?
I think for the staff and players, good. It's unfortunate that we didn't progress on goal differential, but it's unfortunate. It's giving us a little bit of time to recoup. Speaking to Eric yesterday, we're kind of surprised that we actually had a full squad in training, almost a full squad. So that kind of gives that energy that the players are all back. The addition that we've had in the summers will bring up the energy. So I think we're in a good place, ready for the final stretch of the league. So I'm excited.
How difficult is it to find that balance? And we haven't had a chance to talk to Eric Ramsey lately, but you've been around a lot of clubs. When you have a break like this, to find that balance of giving some guys some time off and some rest and a mental, physical break, but also trying to keep guys fit and fresh, because nothing quite replaces match fitness as playing a game.
Yeah, I think the coaches and the physical and the sports science team do a good job. So we have a good idea of kind of the periodization, the levels. Some players are off today, some players are in training today, this morning when I was at the training center. So I'm not worried, and I think everyone is excited and ready for the final stretch. So they're kind of getting themselves ready for it. I wouldn't say it's too much difficult. I think what can break down the rhythm is when you don't progress in the tournament. Maybe there would be availability to kind of blend it and play league games a little bit earlier, but it is what it is.
Well, and also I think because of the new signings that you guys have had in this window, as you're trying to sort of integrate those players, get those players, and even a player like Sam Shashua, who came in before, has played some minutes in games, but even more time in training, and then mixing the group together. I mean, that's got to have some benefit as well as we get into the discussion of the number of players that you're bringing in during this transfer window, to incorporate them maybe during this time where you're not having to throw them right into matches.
Yeah, I mean, of course, and I think for us it's almost like 2 preseasons. If you look at the first preseason beginning of the year, the coaches weren't here. So this is kind of the first 2-3 weeks period where we can train and kind of mesh and get the group together. So it'll be exciting, and it's up to the players and coaches now to raise the bar and standards and really make sure they're ready for what is to come.
What has been maybe your learning curve for this transfer window with this club and back in MLS? I mean, what's What's different for you from prior clubs that you've been with? What's been the process for you?
I think transfer window is a transfer window, I would say. Maybe it's a difference that it closes on August 14th when the rest of the world closes August 30th, which means you could end up losing players while you can't replace them. Would someone come with an offer for any of our players? Now, I don't see us selling anybody or moving anybody on, but that could happen. But otherwise, it's about collaboration, being prepared, find the right balance of being aggressive in for certain players that you want. Do you get them at the good value? How do they fit? So it's been an interesting period because I would say this is the first real window for me and for the staff. I think we've kind of addressed all the discussions we've had. Again, I said it before, if you compare our January window where we kind of didn't do much, I wasn't really here, everything was new, compared to other competitors who spend quite a lot of money in what is perceived as the main transfer window in the league. I think we've done a good job, and then it's up to the players.
When you've had those meetings leading into this transfer window with the staff, with the ownership group, because you're also talking about dollars and where things are going to be allocated, and you're trying to sort of present maybe your ideas to that group, but also having these discussions with the staff. But you also had new staff members coming in the midst of the beginning of the season, even after Eric Ramsey with Dennis Lawrence. And so when you look at that, how would you say that by the time you got to the players that you ended up with in this transfer window, you were all on the same page? Was there anything that came to light in those meetings that maybe surprised you, or what were the sort of the discussions like? If you can take us, behind the curtain in some of those.
No, I mean we've had conversations and discussions, meetings where it's Bill, Sherry, the coaches, me, the recruitment team, and kind of all aligned on the strategy. The ownership have been, good in backing us up financially. And the alignment with the coaches has been good. We continue to get kind of rebalance the squad in terms of age, position, certain attributes that we're trying to add. And I don't, throughout the process, I would say we've been aligned, and it's quite a lot of many conversation, a lot of hours, and a lot of people that get involved and work hard to make this happen. Lucas, Hank, Logan, Andrew, our scout for North America, South America, Freddie, who is a scout in Europe, Pedro, data scientist, Lauren, who helps us, like there's 8, 9, Mike, there's like 10 people almost that kind of work everything from data, the database, the scouting, the reporting. Then it filters into having a conversation with the coaches watch certain players, then the presentation to the ownership, and then we have a conversation of, the level of spend and how much to do it, knowing that there's another window coming in January and another window next summer. Like you don't, I'm a believer that in every window you should give yourself flexibility and room to continuously improve. And I think we found a good balance. I think it's also important, I said it from the beginning, the core is the players that brought us to at one point second in the league. Then we had reasons for a poor spell. I do expect that the core of Hassani, Trapp, Boxel, Tapias, Dane, Lodz step up as well to bring their expertise, their standards, and drive this club to the success everyone wants to achieve this season already.
When you look at the players that you were reaching out to, that you were getting information on, that you were watching, that you're looking at, scouting at, and then of course also the monetary aspect of it and how it all fits together, the number crunchers from that perspective, what would you say was your top priority? Was it are we talking depth? Clearly you signed some DPs here. So like they're, starters, players are going to make an impact immediately. But when you look at sort of that criteria, and then also everybody has sort of a different process. Are you one of those guys that wants to see these guys, meet these guys, talk to these guys in person? Do you leave that to some of your scouts because you trust them and they're all over the world? How does that process work for you? Because culture is also such a big thing in personality for you.
Yes, I think me and Eric to meet every player. Again, this is a little bit of a transition year, so there's potentially, like, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
I didn't have the chance, for example, to meet everyone face to face, but if we didn't, we then made sure that we had the proper interviews and did the due diligence in making sure that the right people, both from the scouting network I have and my personal and Eric's and the rest of the coaches, we feel comfortable that we brought in good people and good characters, and characters that have the drive to achieve and win something. And I said it before, I don't get stuck in whether it's Sam or Yeboah, DP, or what someone might perceive as a depth piece. They're all as important. They're all going to play part in us achieving the goal. That's maybe something unique. In Europe, if I would have signed the players, everyone just talks about the signing.
Yeah.
Here, because of the monetary investment, you label a player DP and you straight away try to differentiate. For me, it's people, quality, they fit in what we want to do, and they provide something that give the coaches the ability to try to win the game.
And when you look at, we're going to talk about some players that are going out as well as players that are coming in. Was there an area of need that you saw the most when you saw how the first half of the season, it was actually more like 3/4 of the season, the All-Star break and this Leagues Cup doesn't exactly come halfway through the middle of the regular season. So when you watch and you finally get your feet on the ground here as you watch from afar in this process, was there an area of need as you saw, or did things sort of ebb and flow because even that first half of the season changed a little bit in the way things went?
I think I had a good idea of what I wanted to do already in January, in the positions that need to improve, both based on contracts expiring, the squad balance, the ability to bring in players and talent that fit even more the way we want to play. So we made the adjustment with certain players that have left the club. And I think we've always had the plan of, we wanted to strengthen offensively with a striker winger, which is Yeboah, Pereyra, which is an offensive midfielder but can also play in a double pivot. A right back was always something we want to add competition for DJ, and somebody that has different attribute, more technical and ability for final third. That also would release Sang Bin to potentially play more higher up. We were looking to add left-sided competition for Rosales and Paddleford. That also provides the ability to move Rosales in midfield. A centre back has always been a need with moving on with Arriaga and Victor. Quite excited that Harvey stepped in and done a good job, so we brought in Diaz. And then we were definitely looking on the central midfield position. And we were in conversation with several options. At the end of the day, it didn't happen. And I feel comfortable in that position, and it does gonna come back a little bit to the core. This gives an opportunity for Trapp and Hassani, and Lod.
To take hold of that position?
And I was aggressive. We were aggressive in trying to bring a player in, but then when we didn't think it made sense within the ability to compete short term, but also build medium and long term, I took a step back and said, can we achieve our goals with a midfield of Hassani, Lod, and Pereyra, or Trapp, Lod, and Pereyra, or Hassani, Trapp, and Lod, and Pereyra on the wing? And I would have to believe that the answer is yes. I'm not the only one that thinks that they personally think they can do that, because the responsibility is going to be on them, and the expectation that they can grab hold and be that leader and that engine in midfield.
Well, it also tells you a little bit about the competitiveness of those individuals, right? I mean, Will Trapp's been around a long time. Hassani now is nearly a veteran as he grows into the spot, but was out a year with injury. But when you throw other good players in the mix, it really tells you who's going to sort of rise to that challenge.
Exactly. So, I think we addressed, I would say, every kind of need and position and various ability to play for the coaches and everything within the financial means that we were given, that I'm thankful for, that Sherry and our ownership supported us with.
Okay, let's get to it. Let's talk about Kelvin Yeboah. He's going to be first on the list here, and you just mentioned him in passing. And I know it says DP striker here, but we won't address again that he's a designated player. Although in MLS, it's clear and obvious that that's an important piece for everybody watching. That is how they signify a lot of things, which isn't the nature you go by. 25-year-old Ghanaian Italian, came from Europe's top leagues. We can talk about that. Bundesliga, Serie A, Ligue 1. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Signed from Genoa. Genoa. I got that right. What did you like about him? What's your history with him? Because some of the players that you brought in the past, like you clearly have a history, you've maybe gone after before. What was the profile that you were looking for there, and how did he fit in?
So, Kelvin is the same. It's a player I've tracked for a long, long time. Already before he was at, I think, Tyrol, then St. Gallen, and then moved away from to go to Genoa. Is a player I've always liked. He has the ability to run in behind. He is a 9 who has ability to play on the wing. I think it gives us the ability to play with 2 strikers. He's good in the initial press. He's in peak age. There's still ability to develop. There's an opportunity, in my opinion, for a player that was bought for $6 million. There was a good business opportunity for us as well to get him for significantly less, with a player that we think has potential to do well here and then potentially sell back. He was on loan at Standard Liège. The sporting director of Standard Liège is one of my close friends. So I know, had the ability around the character. So we're excited to add Kelvin. And if he can score any goals close to what his uncle did for Leeds, we're gonna see some great highlights. But no, I think as we go through each player, it's important to also remember that there's an adaptation period. We have to take into account and be respectful of. Last year you had Sang Bin, Pookie, and it does take time. It's a new country, it's a new league. Some of them have not played for a long time because Kelvin they were on a long break. We're excited, and then I'm sure the coaches and the Kelvin and the teammates will make sure they all get integrated and gives us an additional piece to compete.
Can you give us a little insight on arrival times of some of these guys and where that process is at?
So he's already here.
Okay, he's here in training.
He's here. He trained yesterday.
Okay.
And we're slowly gonna bring him into up to tempo.
Why did he want to come here? What did he like about this opportunity and this next challenge for such a young player?
I think similar to the reasons Eric and I came is, one, the fans, the stadium, the facilities is world class. The growth of the league. I think we kind of all agreed that he would fit in the way we want to play, and he felt this was a good environment where he would be both exposed internationally, but also grow as a person and a player in our environment. So it was a good match.
I'm excited to get up to the next training. I have the Minnesota United game on the 24th, so hopefully I can see some of these guys in action. Is it Jefferson or Jefferson Diaz?
I've called him Jefferson.
Okay, good. I'm going to go with you then. We've had a few Jefferson Savarino, in this, and I never know, especially when they come over here. It's not always the same as what they're always like, hey, just call me. And I'm like, no, I want to get it right. 23-year-old Colombian center back. We just talked about creating more depth at center back and then also replacing Arriaga and Victor Eriksson moving on. 100 professional games played in his native country. So what is it about his profile? What's your history with him? Because it feels like most of these guys you have some sort of a pulse on. It's not like some guy you just go out and find out a whim.
So Jefferson, from the scouting and data and the recruitment team that brought him to the table, the coaches and us as a group quite quickly saw attributes that we liked. He's aggressive, he has good pace, he's comfortable on the ball, he can do some good switches. Again, he's still in an age that there will be growth and development. And he was so excited about coming. Had, met him on Saturday with his agent, and you can just see it in his eyes. And he turned down some other Brazilian clubs, offer from Santos and etc. to come to MLS. And again, for similar reasons like Kelvin, which speaks to the strength of us as a club and the league. And again, he was, the recruitment team, and then along with his agents, we did what I thought was also a very good financial deal for players like that could cost a lot more.
How much do you take into account what the attributes are of the other center backs? Not in the sense that but how they're going to work together, especially in that center back pairing, how they complement each other. Maybe that's a better term. Forwards maybe a little less likely because you don't know if you're going to play with one or two. Maybe you're thinking, but center backs, I feel like there's some complementing there where if this guy's really good at certain aspects and this guy can cover in the other aspects, how much do you think about that? Even though one of your guys could move on or get hurt and it won't even matter, but... Yeah.
I think we first look at how it's going to fit in the way we want to play. I've always said that this year is somewhat of a hybrid year in our style. So our pressing has been, adaptable and then flexible, which I like. First is how does it fit in that, mm-hmm. And second is of course we look at how we will fit with, with Boxy or Tapias if we play 4, if we play 3. However, that chemistry and fit will only come after they practice with each other. So you can take it into account as much as you want, but it won't click until they start, spending time together. But no, excited with Jefferson.
And you mentioned big switches. I mean, we saw when Arriaga moved into that center back role, his ability to hit sort of that big diagonal ball or switch the field. Also maybe playing out of the back, somebody that's more comfortable with their feet, somebody that's not. I mean, do you look at that, again, based on the style of play that this club maybe wants to go in the direction of?
Yeah, I mean, every player we look at has specific attributes and kind of call it player profiling, and we try to check as many of those boxes as you can. If you can check 10 out of 10, you're amazing, but
they still don't know how they're always going to fit with,
because there's personality,
right.
And there's adaptation, etc. So, but no, excited with that addition, and we'll see how that pans out.
Is he here?
He's here, okay. Trained as well.
Okay. And then is there an availability or I should say, I feel like the 24th felt so far away, but it's going to be here before we know it now, August 24th. Is that the next match for you guys?
It is, but it might get postponed.
Right, it might get postponed. It's against Seattle, I believe. Yes.
At home.
It's hard to keep track of what everybody's doing, but I think, do you expect most of these guys ready and available for that, or does that really just depend on fitness levels for sure?
Yeah. Like, look, they're available. There are players. They're registered. All visa, everything is in place, so they are part of the squad. If they play or not, that's a coach's decisions.
Matou Kmet, did I say that right?
Yeah, Matou Kmet. Yeah.
Kmet, okay. 24-year-old fullback, Slovakia, 150 plus appearances in his top division. And again, talking about depth and where you want to put them as far as on the right-hand side, the left-hand side, I believe he's a right-sided fullback. Yeah. And you just talked about the ability to, Caden Clark played a little bit there, which we'll get to Caden Clark shortly, but pulling Sangbin back into that position to help with some of the depth. DJ Taylor also. So again, more competition. What did you like about him and what's your history?
Outside of being half Czech and I can speak to Kmet in his native language, there's not much history. Again, a player that we scouted, data, references good. A winner, you can really feel that seriousness. So I think he will come with a very good attitude and high standards. Almost made the Slovakian team for the Euros, so he's on the brink in that. So again,
part of their youth teams.
Yeah, so again, a player we think we can continue to develop, and will add technical ability, good final third serving, and I think for him also be, how does he adapt to the style, the speed of play, sometimes the transition games that opens up in MLS compared to more tactical and compactness in Europe. But yeah, it's a good player and character to add to the group for that right side.
And then just again with that, what was his desire to move to this league? And how many of these guys, when you're looking at them, approaching them, some you've had a history with and maybe had conversations in the past to get them to your prior clubs. Are any of these guys? Do you have an inkling? Do your scouts have an inkling that they're ready for a move? They're looking for a change. They want a new challenge, or are some of them kind of like, hey, I wasn't looking, but this seems like a good opportunity. What was that conversation with him?
With him, it's once we made the first approach, that's what he wanted, which is quite interesting because it's been the same with Jefferson, Kelvin, and Matou. So not a lot of sales pitch on that. It was, hey, we're interested.
You're not begging them to come. They want to be here. No, not at all.
They all really want to be here. They made that clear. They were patient throughout the process. So no, it was, again, I was excited to see what he will provide and look forward to it.
I'm noticing a trend here too as we go down the list. 24, 23, 24. We're going to talk about Joaquin, 25, Argentine center midfielder. So clearly a trend of sort of this prime age where they've had quite a bit of experience, professional experience, national team experience, or youth national team under their belt, but also so much room to still maybe grow and develop. So talk to us about Joaquin Pereyra.
Yeah, I think you've heard me say it quite many times that the way I look at the team, first and foremost, is from a squad balance perspective. And our team had a clear hole in the peak age in all these positions. Either older or we have some up and coming, but we needed to fill kind of that peak, or players that we hope add to the core that will be here over time. So it was the brief was very clear on what players we were gonna sign, and it was no one older than 26.
So you actually put a number on it.
Yeah, we made a clear decision on the balance that we wanted to add because we have the experience with Pukki, Boxel, Clint, Trapp. So Fraga don't need that. There was a clear disconnect into that core, so we focused on the peak. And again, now it's going to be up to the players.
So what did you like about him specifically?
Joaquin?
Yeah, about Joaquin.
Joaquin, versatility, can play 8, 10, 11. People talk about his ability to break lines and play forward. We actually like how his initial pressing is defensively as well, and he has that attitude to work hard, which is something we want with our 10. I think that's why Robin has been so successful in that offensive position, because he has that instinct to work two ways, and we think Pereyra does the same, which will give us flexibility to play with 1-6 and Pereyra and Lod, or with Pereyra and Hassani or Trapp and Lod. And it gives us just a lot of flexibility. We can also move Pereyra out left. So we think it's a good addition to kind of the offense and attributes that we want to in our squad.
And I know I sound like I'm repeating myself here, but what was that initial conversation like? Why did he want to be here? Because I think a lot of people that have these international players, or a lot of people within MLS, see these international players come over, whether they're a name that everybody knows or someone that they don't. And especially at these ages, what was his desire to be here in Minnesota? Everybody's talking, oh, so-and-so is going to LA, so-and-so is going to New York, so-and-so is going to Miami. But there's a difference to be a part of this club and what is happening here in this soccer culture. Why did he want to be here?
I think there's no way, we need to embrace that Marcus Royce is not coming to Charlotte or Minnesota. He's going to LA.
Olivier Giroud.
It's completely fine.
Yeah.
So, what is the identity of us? And that is these type of personalities that, really want to be here and embrace Minnesota for what it is. And so that's exciting. And Joaquin, again, was the same. Without naming another MLS team, he had an opportunity to go into MLS in the spring. That didn't happen, so we saw an opportunity in the summer to again bring it at a lower value than what it potentially was, and a good financial package for us that gives us flexibility. Whether he's a DP, we could buy him down to provide us immediate or short-term, kind of impact, but also medium and long-term impact, as well as roster flexibility. So excited about Joaquin. He's not here. We're waiting on his visa, and once the visa is in place, he will come. He's already played in Tucumán. So if you look at Kmet, Yeboah, and Diaz, of kind of preseason mode, have not really played. Pereyra's played league games.
Got it. So he'll be coming in a little bit more fit and ready to go.
A little bit more ready to go.
Yet.
Yeah. So excited.
And just before we get on to the next tier, I wanted to ask you, do you think that's a massive difference in this league, maybe over the last 5 or less years, that when you are approaching these players, and you were with Man City's group before, so you know what it was like, but also, again, that was New York and it was Man City, so you always had that name to kind of go along with it, but where this is on players' radars, MLS is on the radar of these young international players, and maybe it would have been 5 or 10 years ago, where I feel like everybody that comes over gets asked, well, why MLS? Why now? What was, and every single player says, this league is growing, this league is getting better, we see other players, we talk to our former teammates or countrymen that have come here. Do you think that has changed about MLS in the last 5 years or so?
Yeah, definitely. One, there's a lot of players. There's always going to be players wanting to come to the league. It's good pay, it's stable, facilities is great, Apple TV. Like there's a lot of things in this league that make it good. At the same time, there are players that are saying, no, I don't want to come because I am going to Premier League, etc. So I'm quite confident we'll always find players. Are we able to get players now that we couldn't 5 years ago? Probably, but it's a combination of all the things. There's more money in the cap. There's the facilities are better. There's the TV attention. So the answer is yes. However, I still think every team would still be able to find players because there's good players all over the world wanting to play football.
Just because the Loons are away doesn't mean you have to watch the match from home. With Loons Watch Spots, presented by Coors Light, you can find a piece of that Allianz Field atmosphere at some of your favorite Twin Cities locations. Check out the full list of locations and upcoming watch parties at MNUFC.com/Loons Watch Spots.
So the international, the transfer window for international players, at least bringing them in, is closed. But MLS players, to my knowledge, are still open and an option, correct? For free agents, or for transfers? So like bringing in Anthony Markanich from St. Louis City, to my knowledge.
Still had to be yesterday during the deadline.
Oh, it was yesterday. See, I was thinking that lasted a day or two longer to bring in MLS league players. So you got this one in just under the wire then.
Yeah, we executed the deal yesterday. We've always kind of, there's a combination of if we add that 6 into the midfield. If we don't, we want to add competition to Paddleford and Rosales, which also gives us the ability to bring Rosales in midfield would we want to. So we've always kind of, on the depth chart, had an idea for some players we would like to do some internal trades for, and we executed it yesterday with good collaboration with Loons and St. Louis to bring him in.
And then what about, I mean, again, that's one of the MLS moves and all these international moves. So there's a benefit too there where he's already in the league, he's fit, he's in.
Of course.
He's familiar with everything, exactly.
Yeah, knows the league, knows the region, right? St. Louis to Minnesota, similar type of style and expectations. So, yeah, I think we're happy to have Anthony and looking forward to how we can, again, add to the balance and then competition and be part of the group that hopefully will bring us more points and wins.
Well, and it kind of feels like with Rosales and even Sangbin, they are kind of one of those. They were doing sort of double duty. I mean, which we see a lot of wing backs or outside backs, whatever we want to call them, full backs these days do. But at the end of the day, when you're putting those kind of minutes and those kind of miles, if you want them fresh towards the end of the season and you want them higher up the field, I would think that maybe Rosales will feel quite good about this opportunity to not have to track back quite as much defensively if you have more depth in that left back position.
No. Rosales needs to track back regardless of competition, and that goes for every player because that's the way we play. I think it's more for the coaches to have the ability to add options. We like players that can play more than one position. So
is that the new norm? I mean, I've talked to Wilfred Nazi quite a bit with Columbus, and he's like, we do not bring in a guy that cannot play at least two positions. And that guy may not know that he's going to play two positions, but when it gets here, I'm going to have him playing at least two positions or have the flexibility to maneuver because of the way the season and the amount of games works.
I agree with Wilfred, and it's a conversation we're having as well. Right? You know, like you look at the beginning of the season, you're having DJ as your right back. DJ gets injured. We gave the opportunity to Caden, and then Sangbin ended up being the solution. And Sangbin, when he was brought, was I think offensive left-sided winger.
Yeah.
It shows to the testament of the character of the players that they can adapt, and that the coaches that they can get players to play that way. Certain players you want to be specialists in certain positions, but to have a bit of flexibility and adaptability, I think is good.
So when we're talking about bringing in all these players, and we'll get to the players that are heading out in a moment, but even with some of the players that you already have on the roster, you've mentioned several times Rosales and Sangbin, DJ, Padelford. What about like Bongi? What about Bongugu Cleveland-Wane? What does that mean for him now that you're adding some of these attacking pieces? Or Sam Shashua, who you just brought in. You've talked a lot about the central midfield role, and again, competition is key at all those positions. But how does that all kind of shift and flow?
So I think even when we looked at the amount of players we wanted
and Pookie,
to...
I didn't even mention Pookie and Tanny, who I'm not sure if he's back from in training or not yet. But
look, I think the way we looked at it was also how many players we want to bring in. We decided in and around 5 to 6 players, no more, because there is a locker room culture and to kind of have respect and make sure that fits. But players are interesting because they want to play with the best players.
Yeah.
And when you then bring the best players in or better players in, like it's that is why I meant like the window shots. It's up to them now. Who plays is essentially the coach's decision, but the players essentially make the decision by the way they act, they train, and show the coaching staff, I want to be that guy, and that's essentially sports. So, you can't say you want to play every game and then in the sense not have competition, and that competition will just continue to be added and grow for every window. So I'm excited about it, and I actually think the players are excited about it as well. It shows that the club wants to improve, wants to support the current players, and now it's up to them in training to show that they're the guys that Eric and the staff should pick.
And then on the as far as the players that are heading out, and we'll talk about Morris Duggan, and he's just heading to a USL club. But what does that mean for him? What were you most impressed with? Maybe the minutes that he got more recently, and then how does he view that opportunity? Because there have been a few guys on this current roster, that have gone and played in the USL. Tanny being one of them, Dane St. Clair as well, who felt like in the moment they're like, what the heck? I want to be with Minnesota United. I want to be with the first team. But at the same time, they come back from that moment, or if you recall him, they feel like they gained a ton from it.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, I think we look at the player, we look at a squad holistically, but also on an individual basis. Morris has played enough minutes in MLS Next Pro. He's done a good job with the first team, potentially couldn't break into the starting lineup. The next step for his development was a different environment, different team. And, we all agreed that this is the good step for him. And we're excited.
To get more game minutes.
Exactly.
Because there's something about that, too.
Yeah, of course.
Playing.
And we're excited to see how he does.
Patrick Weah, Jesse Malik Khan, heading over to Denmark. How did that decision come about? What does that conversation look like? How do these guys handle that moment of being told that they're heading out?
Yeah, so we've kind of reorganized internally the roles with, the new head of ops, head of recruitment, head of player management. So when we looked at all the players, we said, okay, what is the best pathway for certain players? Some of them need to be in market. Some of them need to stay in the States, but out of market.
In market, because why? Like, can you tell me what goes into that?
For example,
Just
Cage.
depending on the individual.
Cage,
Yeah.
I think should still be close to his family and feel the closeness to both his off the field and on the pitch. And then you take Morris, we brought him, and now we think it's good to go there.
Sure.
Malik and Via have been with the club for quite some time. And we thought in their development to achieve their dreams and for us to see, evaluate them, is they need to get a completely different experience. And the experience...
like better for them to just completely go away and figure things out.
Figure out, I'm walking to training, I'm not driving because it's Europe, different level, different culture. If these players want to achieve their ultimate dream of becoming the best they can be at any level, we have to be able to challenge them in various ways.
Like out of their comfort zone a little bit.
Exactly. And that's in training. And that's also the various, opportunities we give them. Via and Malik, obviously a bit nervous in the beginning. You don't know what you expect. They've since then gone there. They're now registered. They can play. Malik was subbed in the second half and did well. And we're excited to see how that relationship with the club also evolves, but specifically for how the players embrace it and take it. And it is a strategy we're going to apply. As academy players come, do you go straight to the first team? Do you first go to MLS Next Pro? Do you go to USL? Do you go abroad? It's a very dynamic and fun kind of squad building, essentially.
So how does that conversation come? Like, how do you end up with that club? What's your relationship with them? How does that manifest itself? And then also, what are the conversations when these players go, even if it's in USL, about maybe USL more so than when they go abroad, about the minutes, the expectations for these players? Because I know there was conversations in the past with guys from Minnesota United that had gone to USL clubs, and maybe the expectation from Minnesota United was that this player was going to get a certain amount of minutes, and then they go and they're sitting on the bench. So how do those conversations go with those other clubs?
I don't believe in demanding minutes from the club.
They have to earn them there like they would here.
Otherwise, you're creating something that's not real.
Yeah.
What I do is try to find a level where we think they can compete in an environment that we believe they can help, and an environment that will also support them in their growth. And with HB Kyrgyz, there's a connection.
I'm glad you said the name because I was going to struggle with that. I knew you were going to get it right.
Yeah, HB Kyrgyz. If you look at Denmark in its sense, is good at developing players, good transfer values. The level of the second division is very good. I saw that Inter Miami sold a player to Vencisel as well. HB Kyrgyz has American ownership, so it was a good fit for the players, for us, and for the club, and excited to track their progress in the coming weeks and months.
What is that communication like, especially when they go abroad? So
we assign a coach
okay.
to watch their games and to stay in touch with them.
Okay.
To make sure that they're still connected to the club, and that goes. Same for Morris. It was the same for Marquez at VSCO. Same with Ethan.
Yeah.
Just because they're on loan does not mean that they are players. They are our players until their transfer happens.
And then Caden Clark off to Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
What was that move? How did that come about? Why Montreal? Did they approach you? Did you? I mean, I don't know how does that go down? Was that a need of theirs? And then what did you see?
Montreal showed interest. We discussed it internally and thought it was a good step for Caden to continue to develop his career, and I think we got a good deal again from a roster flexibility, as well as as he develops, we have the ability to take part of Caden's potential success. So excited. He was good when he was here, provided flexibility, but for where we're going at this moment, it was the best for us and for him.
And then just, as this window has wrapped up, you already mentioned, the winter window, and then next, like already thinking ahead, planning ahead. It's not just all about right now and having sort of some patience and clearly a plan.
Yeah.
What does the rest of 2024 look like for this team from your perspective? With these additions, with some of the players that have headed out, what's your thought process?
The thought process is now, for the coaches and the players and for us as a club to, as quickly as possible, try to maximize, our potential for the coming, first and foremost, 9 games to make the playoffs. And after that is when you're in playoffs, anything can happen, and that has not changed. And I think, whether you're a new player or a core player, everyone understands that. And then there's the reality. There's players that are playing, with contracts expiring. So it's not just about how Minnesota United is going to be. It's also kind of that a personal battle. And I think if we bring together that energy, I'm excited to see what we can do in the coming 9 games. At the same time, I have full respect for this year that's been unique for us.
Mm-hmm. Unlike any other you've been a part of, just the way this came together?
This whole year already, from like when I came to Eric, I said it in some previous podcasts, if you look at teams that usually are very successful, there's been consistency. You mentioned Leagues Cup. Yeah. You look at the teams that are succeeding in Leagues Cup, coaches have been there more than one season. They've kind of settled in who they want to be. And, we're just kind of starting our journey or evolution from the good history that the club created up to this point. And there are going to be ups and downs. And I'm excited. And, what we're going to do in winter and summer, we already have a plan and an idea. I do think we're going to do some additional announcement in the coming weeks and months prior to the window opening in January. So exciting as we try to build both from academy contracts to additional young talent to peak age players.
And then just lastly, when you go into this window with a plan, which you did, and then, the talking heads always give grades on how teams did with their draft or with their, from your perspective and what you wanted to accomplish in this window. And we don't know how these guys are going to translate onto the field yet. But how would you grade what this team, this club, was able to accomplish in this window? How would you evaluate? Just based on what you knew you wanted to get.
So are we basing it 1 out of 5, 1 out of 10? What's your
Let's
grade?
do 1 out of 10. 10 is the best ever. Okay. And 1 is like we didn't get anybody we wanted.
So I won't give a 10 probably ever. Maybe if you win 4 Premier League titles in a year.
Was that Liverpool or?
I thought we agreed not to mention that name.
We got through the whole podcast.
Yeah, and I still can't see whatever that person's jersey is wearing. And interesting enough, we also have a Man United guy here, but he's been quite quiet.
They haven't fought yet.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a wrestling match yet.
Yeah, so I think I lost the thread because just hearing Liverpool, Man United in the same sentence, I lost it.
You'll never give a 10.
I won't give a 10. I will say this. In terms of all the circumstances and all the new people collaborating, I would say for the internal process and collaboration, I will give it 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
I think
that's a good point. We're talking about collaboration on the field, but for those great minds to all get together.
People shouldn't forget that there's new coaches, there's a new sporting directors, never worked with the CEO, new ownership, Eric and my relationship. So from that perspective and kind of the alignment and how we navigated a tough period and the conversations and look, there's egos in this, I would say 9 out of 10. So I'm probably it's the thing that I'm the most proud of. The way we've collaborated and led the process, and now we're doing a review of how to improve moving forward.
Well, and I just want to interrupt you there because that's a huge piece, I think, that people don't fully understand. Sometimes you can get in a meeting, and if people are hell-bent and set in their ways, and it's my way or the highway, or they're not willing to listen to other ideas, So we talk about chemistry and collaboration on the field and culture, but it's just as important when you're talking about that group that's sitting in these meetings and having these conversations.
And look, and the way I lead, of course, I'm hired to make the ultimate decision, but I'll give you a bit of insight. You have a meeting where there's Bill, Sherry, Lucas, Logan, Hank, Dennis, Eric Ramsey, Amos from Academy, Cam, me, 10, 11 people all discussing the various complexity information that I collect, and then obviously along coordinated with Sherry and Eric. And the ultimate best decision is when the full group goes, yes, that's where we're going. So that is 9 out of 10. Players, I'm happy in terms of like the squad balance, the age. We spent wisely. One of the owners made a really comment. I was like, oof, we spent plus 6 million, 6.5 million in this window. And he said, yeah, you did that on 6 players, where other clubs are spending 9, 10 on one.
Yes.
I find that exciting that we can, that's the way we want to, wanted to act in this window. So a lot of positives. How it will work out, I don't like. It's so difficult.
Yeah.
You never know. And there's so many things that can happen. I've seen top players move from Liverpool to Chelsea and be something completely different.
Yeah.
So I'm just excited. Windows closed. I'm giving a lot of people off for a week to recoup. And for me personally, the best recruitment, best signing is my family's coming next week.
Yeah.
And I'm getting a keys to a house, so.
Yeah, and a car, hopefully.
All while
I don't think they're all going to fit
doing this.
on their bike. Yeah. Although in Europe, I've seen some of those bikes riding through town with like whole families on the back.
Yeah.
Like when I was in Frankfurt for quite a bit. And
my back has a flat tire, so I have to sort that out.
Well, I'm excited for you as well in that regard, because just like we talk about these players and how much there's like a comfort level once they get their family, they get settled. Any person that is close to them, whether it's a sibling or a spouse or a partner, it's amazing sometimes how you can sense the difference in how they feel settled and supported, especially when they're abroad and somewhere they've not been before. So that'll be awesome for you. And then you can add a few more bracelets from your daughter.
Exactly. And they're definitely coming. They've been showing all the bracelets they're made. But no, I think, to remember, everyone gets all excited about all the new players, whether it's staff or owners. I keep saying, like, you need to respect the players that are here. They need to, step up because there is competition. They wanted competition. We brought them competition. I think everyone from coaches to CEO, Bill, Logan, Sherry, Gretchen, everyone there's so many people involved in this processes, media team.
Angie,
relocation, and Erin, and it is so complex. So like I said, 9 out of 10, and thankful for the support and collaboration. And whatever happens, I do think we're heading in the right direction, and I'm just now excited to
see it out there.
To see it out there and see how it comes together.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. I know everybody watching or listening is going to appreciate it, because there's nothing like being able to deep dive into, especially when you have this many signings and the club has gone through so many changes this year, into the person that's actually hugely responsible for what the vision is and what it's going to hopefully look like in the players and the process behind it, because it's not like you're just throwing something at the wall and seeing if it sticks. So thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. And we'll hopefully see you all again next week for another episode of Sound of the Loons.
Thank you.